What if the strongest humans in history never touched a weight? Picture this. A Roman gladiator stepping into the Colosseum, muscles carved from years of brutal training. The crowd roars as he raises his arms, but what they don't see is the journey that brought him here. No barbells, no machines, no protein shakes, just raw human movement, relentless discipline, and the will to survive another day in the arena. That gladiator's strength didn't come from a gym membership or a personal trainer. It came from something far more primal and powerful. Every morning before dawn, he would practice the same movements his ancestors had used for thousands of years. Push-ups against stone walls, pull-ups from wooden beams, squats that would make modern athletes weep. But there was something different about his training, something we've completely lost in our obsession with weights and machines. Today, we chase complex routines and expensive equipment, thinking that's where real strength lives. We measure progress in pounds lifted and reps completed, convinced that more is always better. But the truth is hiding in plain sight, buried under thousands of years of forgotten wisdom. The most powerful warriors, athletes, and mystics of the ancient world built their bodies using nothing but gravity, stone, and determination. They discovered secrets about human strength that modern fitness has somehow lost. What's even more remarkable is that these weren't just strong people. They were functional warriors who could fight for hours, climb impossible walls, and endure conditions that would hospitalize most modern humans. Their strength wasn't just for show, it was forged in the crucible of real-world demands where weakness meant death and power meant survival. In the next few minutes, you'll see how these ancient methods can transform your body in ways that no gym membership ever could. You'll discover why a 150-pound monk could outlast a 250-pound bodybuilder, why ancient warriors never got injured despite brutal training, and how you can tap into the same primal strength that built empires and conquered continents. Let's uncover what they knew that we've forgotten. Deep in the mountains of Tibet, where the air is so thin that every breath is a battle, young monks face a test that would break most modern athletes. The monastery sits at 14,000 feet above sea level, carved into a cliff face that seems to touch the sky itself. Here, in this harsh and unforgiving environment, boys as young as 12 begin a journey that will either forge them into legends or crush them completely. Before dawn, when the mountain peaks are painted silver by starlight, they gather in a courtyard carved from living rock. The air is so cold it burns their lungs, the ground is frozen solid, and their only equipment is their own body weight. Each monk drops into a position that looks deceptively simple, a deep squat, arms extended like wings, breathing controlled despite the altitude that makes every inhalation precious. But this isn't just exercise, it's survival training for both mind and body. In this harsh environment, weakness isn't just uncomfortable, it's potentially fatal. The monks who can't adapt to the altitude, who can't endure the cold, who can't push through exhaustion when their oxygen-starved muscles are screaming for relief, these monks don't make it through their first winter. Hour after hour they hold this position while their thighs scream in agony and their lungs burn from the thin air. The weak ones shake uncontrollably and collapse into the snow, their bodies simply giving up. But the strong ones discover something incredible happening in their minds and muscles. The deeper they sink into discomfort, the more they transcend it. They're not just getting stronger physically, they're rewiring their entire relationship with pain, fear, and limitation. The head monk walks among them with a wooden staff, occasionally tapping those whose form is breaking or whose minds are wandering. But his real teaching happens in silence. He shows them that suffering is optional, that pain is just sensation, and that the human body can endure far more than the mind believes possible. He's teaching them what ancient texts call iron will, the ability to stay calm and powerful when everything hurts, when everything inside you wants to quit. This exact training method appears in every ancient culture across the globe, just with different names and slight variations. The Spartans, those legendary warriors who held the pass at Thermopylae against impossible odds, called it ponos, the beautiful struggle. They understood that true strength is born from embracing difficulty rather than avoiding it. Young Spartan boys would hold defensive positions for hours, shields raised, legs burning, learning that the warrior who can endure longest wins the battle. In feudal Japan, samurai warriors practiced seiza, sitting in perfect stillness on their heels until pain became irrelevant and their minds achieved crystal clarity. They discovered that when you can sit motionless for hours despite burning legs and aching backs, drawing a sword in combat becomes as natural as breathing. The physical discomfort of Caesar was nothing compared to the mental clarity and emotional stability it created. Across the ocean, Native American warriors held the eagle pose, balancing on one leg with arms spread wide until their spirits soared above their bodies, and they achieved perfect unity with nature. They would practice this on cliff edges and mountain peaks, where a loss of balance meant death, forcing their minds to achieve absolute focus and their bodies to develop incredible stability. Even in ancient Egypt, the builders of the pyramids practiced similar endurance holds while carrying massive stones across the desert. They learned that mental endurance was just as important as physical strength when moving blocks that weighed several tons using nothing but human power and primitive tools. The common thread running through all these cultures is the same. They understood that real strength isn't just about muscle fibers and joint angles. It's about forging an unbreakable connection between mind and body, creating what we might call integrated toughness. Same principle, same results, unbreakable mental and physical strength that could be called upon in any situation, under any conditions. Modern research has finally caught up to what these warriors knew instinctively through thousands of years of trial and error. When you hold a difficult position under tension, what exercise scientists now call isometric training, your body activates something called irradiation. This is a neurological phenomenon where deep muscle fibers fire up that you simply can't reach with regular dynamic movement. But here's where it gets really fascinating. Your nervous system learns to recruit maximum strength while maintaining perfect relaxation in non-working muscles. This creates what researchers call selective tension, the ability to generate tremendous power in the muscles you need while keeping everything else loose and efficient. That's why a skinny Tibetan monk who's mastered these holds can often outlift someone twice his size in functional strength tests. The ancient masters didn't know the scientific terms, but they understood the results. They knew that when you train your body to stay strong under prolonged stress, you develop a kind of strength that goes far beyond what you can measure in the gym. You develop what they called spiritual strength, power that comes from the unity of mind, body, and will. What's even more remarkable is the cardiovascular adaptation that happens. When you hold challenging positions for extended periods, your heart rate elevates but then stabilizes at a sustainable level. Your body learns to deliver oxygen efficiently under stress, creating the kind of endurance that allowed ancient warriors to fight in battles that lasted entire days. Modern interval training tries to replicate this, but it misses the mental component that made the ancient methods so effective. But here's where the story takes a dramatic turn. In ancient Greece, athletes didn't train in comfortable gymnasiums with padded floors and safety equipment. They trained on cliffs that would terrify modern rock climbers. Picture the rocky coast of Crete, where jagged limestone walls rise straight up from the Mediterranean Sea. Waves crash hundreds of feet below, sending spray high into the air, while young Greek men climb these vertical walls using nothing but their fingers and toes. These weren't casual weekend warriors or thrill seekers. These were serious athletes preparing for the Olympic Games, where victory meant eternal glory and defeat meant returning home in shame. But they understood something profound: when your life depends on your grip strength, when one mistake means plummeting to your death on the rocks below, your body accesses strength reserves that safe, comfortable training simply cannot touch. One slip meant death, so every grip had to be perfect, every movement calculated and precise. There was no room for sloppy technique or half-hearted effort. Each finger placement was a life-or-death decision, each shift in body position a carefully calculated risk. The rock was unforgiving. It didn't care about your personal best or your training goals. It only cared whether you were strong enough and focused enough to survive. This wasn't just physical training, it was a mental forge that created warriors of unshakable confidence. When you're hanging from a cliff face with the ocean roaring hundreds of feet below, your mind can't wander to what you're having for dinner or what your friends think about you. You enter what the Greeks called arete, a state of total focus where your body and mind become one unified force, operating at maximum capacity. In that moment of perfect clarity, hanging between earth and sky with nothing but your own strength keeping you alive, you discover capabilities you never knew existed. Your grip becomes iron, your core turns to stone, and fear transforms from your enemy into your ally, sharpening your focus and heightening your senses until you feel every tiny shift in wind, every subtle change in the rock's texture. The movements these cliff climbers developed are identical to what we now call functional calisthenics. Pull-ups, muscle-ups, human flags, they're all echoes of ancient cliff training, but there's a crucial difference. The ancients trained with real consequences. Every rep mattered because their life depended on it. That intensity created a level of strength and mental toughness that's almost impossible to replicate in a safe modern gym. Thousands of miles away in the deserts of ancient Egypt, builders were discovering another secret about human strength. They had to move massive stone blocks without cranes or machines, using only human power and ingenuity. But they noticed something strange. The strongest workers weren't always the biggest ones. The real power came from those who could coordinate their entire body as one unit. These ancient engineers developed training methods based on total body integration. Workers would practice lifting and carrying awkward objects, logs, stones, water jugs, that forced every muscle to work together. They discovered that true strength isn't about isolated muscles, it's about teaching your body to move as a unified system. When thousands of muscles coordinate perfectly, you become capable of seemingly impossible feats. This wisdom lives on in modern calisthenics movements like handstand push-ups and pistol squats. These exercises force your entire body to work as one unit, just like those ancient builders. But most people miss the deeper lesson. Real strength training is about integration, not isolation. When you master complex bodyweight movements, you're not just building muscle, you're rewiring your nervous system to access power you already possess. In feudal Japan, samurai discovered that the deadliest warriors weren't necessarily the strongest in the traditional sense. The most feared fighters were those who had mastered zanshin, a state of relaxed alertness where maximum power flows through a completely calm body. They trained by holding weapons in challenging positions for hours, learning to generate tremendous force while remaining internally peaceful. This created a paradox that modern strength training completely misses. The harder you try, the weaker you become. True power emerges when effort becomes effortless. The samurai called this mushin no shin, the mind of no mind. In this state, your body moves with perfect efficiency while your consciousness stays crystal clear. You become stronger by trying less, not more. You can experience this same phenomenon in advanced calisthenics. When you first attempt a handstand, you shake and struggle, using way too much energy. But as you progress, something magical happens. The movement becomes smooth and controlled. You're using the same muscles, but you're accessing a different type of strength, one that flows from stillness rather than struggle. This is the strength the samurai cultivated, and it's available to anyone willing to train with patience and precision. Perhaps the most profound discovery comes from the ancient yogis of India. They understood that the body is just the beginning. Real transformation happens when physical practice awakens dormant potential in your nervous system. Through years of challenging poses and breathing techniques, they learned to consciously control functions that most people consider automatic: heart rate, body temperature, even pain perception. These masters could demonstrate supernatural-seeming abilities, holding ice-cold water without shivering, remaining motionless for days, or displaying incredible strength despite their seemingly frail appearance. But they weren't supernatural. They were simply accessing neurological pathways that modern people have forgotten how to use. The ancient training methods all point to the same revolutionary truth. Your body already contains everything you need to become incredibly strong. You don't need more equipment, more supplements, or more complex routines. You need to rediscover the primal movement patterns that unlock your nervous system's full potential. Every push-up connects you to Roman legionnaires. Every pull-up echoes Greek cliff climbers. Every plank holds the wisdom of Tibetan monks. The real question isn't whether these methods work. History has already proven that. The question is whether you're ready to train like your ancestors did, with purpose, intensity, and respect for the incredible machine you were born with. Because once you taste that kind of strength, everything else feels like playing pretend.